Everybody, welcome back to another episode on Restored to More. We are so excited about this episode. We have Amanda Onnested and Katie Griggs with us from the Victory Collective. I'll let Charity share more about what they're doing.
Okay. Amanda and Katie are the founders of Victory Collective. The Victory Collective approaches the topics of sexuality, pornography, and masturbation through a biblical lens. They believe that the gospel of Jesus Christ is true, inerrant, and vital for our journey to freedom. Their goal is to provide you with practical resources that ultimately point you back to Jesus. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thank you for.
Absolutely. Why don't we just start by learning about your guys' personal stories? I'm sure this isn't something that you're like, oh yeah, I just want to do that when I'm older. I'm going to start an Instagram that's all about this and sharing this story. It kind of comes out of nowhere, right? And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I guess we're doing this. But we'd love to hear both you guys' personal backgrounds and just how your story got you to even doing what you're doing today.
And if you don't mind,
yeah,
if for people who aren't watching this, they can probably hear in your voice, you guys are young. And I just think
good point.
We love connecting with younger generations because it is just totally getting rid of the shame component when they're younger. When we know the statistics, right, of who's viewing pornography, who has past sexual brokenness, but to know that there are other young singles and ladies and men and couples sharing on this topic brings so much light and so much hope. So if you guys wouldn't mind sharing your age, I think that's really hopeful when you guys are sharing your story.
Yeah. Katie, why don't you kick us off and get us started?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 25. I'll be 26 next month. My story starts all the way back in 8th grade. I got an iPod Touch for my 13th birthday. And at school, I had heard people talking about girls kissing. And in my little Christian bubble, I didn't even know that was possible. That was the first time I had ever heard anything like that. And so when I got home from school that day, I got out my iPod Touch and Googled it. And I immediately found images that made me feel super uncomfortable. I ended up like crying, and I just felt so gross. And I didn't know why. I eventually went and got my mom and told her what I had seen, but I told her that it just popped up on my iPod, not that I had looked for it. And that was the first time she told me what pornography was. She explained that I had seen a bad image and that there are things on the internet that aren't good and be careful what you're searching for, that kind of thing. And I kind of forgot about it and pushed it into the back of my mind after that, because it made me feel so gross and I didn't want to feel like that again. But at the same time, when I saw those images, it also, like, there were kind of some good feelings, like the curiosity or, all the things that come with that. So I just didn't want to look at it for a couple years. And then my friends were talking about the app Tumblr and how it's so fun and we can follow each other. And I got it. And literally the first 5 minutes that I was on it, I saw pornography. And again, those curious kind of good feelings crept in, and I was like, oh, I should look for more of this. And it started out as a total accident and then turned into something that I was typing in and looking for on my own. Wow. And that went on for a long time, all throughout high school and into college. And then when I was in college, I had a friend that I finally felt like I could say it out loud to someone. And I had felt so ashamed and dirty, like throughout all those years. But God was really pushing me to tell someone. And I didn't want to at all. I wanted to just keep it to myself. But I finally shared with my roommate, and I cried and was like, I understand if you don't want to be my friend. Like, I'm disgusting. I'm the only girl who has ever done this ever. And she just said, Katie, I still love you. Jesus still loves you. Like, just because you have done this thing that you deem disgusting doesn't change how I think of you. And that started to really transform my heart and the way I viewed myself. And then literally 2 days later, Amanda texted me, and that's where our stories get crazy and come together.
Can we ask you a couple questions about your story right there and dive a little more into that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
My gosh, I just think even that is just going to be, it's going to help so many women out there, because this is not a guy's struggle. Now I think they just, stats were saying like 40% of women, you might know the stats even better than I do. Is it about 40% of women struggle with this? Is there a different number that you guys come up with?
I think so. You might need to fact check us on this, but I think it's more at 45, 50%.
Wow. I mean, you got to think like pornography still does things to the brain, just like it does for men, right? And those feelings of adrenaline and safety and curiosity. You sound so innocent. I just picture this little 8th grade Katie that's like exposed, and then it's like, wow. And it wasn't, yes, there was feelings of shame, but it sounds like there was also these feelings of curiosity, or what was that? Or stimulus, right? Just the brain got stimulated based off what we're seeing, things that are kind of traumatic, we can be drawn to them. Now, this whole time, it sounds, were you raised in the church? Was your family a Christian family? What did that look like? What messages did you receive from the church? Why did you feel so gross? And why wasn't like it just accepted? Because I think nowadays a culture is almost kind of like, hey, porn's normal. Like there's no damage in it. There's no big deal. Did you feel like for you, there was like, oh no, there was a big deal. I couldn't ever tell somebody I looked at this, or what was that for you?
I grew up going to a Christian private school. I went to the same church I was born in, raised by a Christian family, and raised in purity culture. And so at church, I was always told, boys look at pornography. Girls, you need to cover your shoulders because you could cause the boys to stumble, that whole thing. And I was never taught about pornography by my parents either. And so on the outside, in middle school and high school, I was like the purity poster child. Wow. Like all my friends knew I wasn't dating, I wasn't having sex, I wasn't even kissing a boy. Like I was the golden child and wanted to follow all of those rules, to the point where friends would even be afraid to tell me that they had had sex or were dating, because I was like so adamant about staying pure and dating for marriage. And because I was so Christian-y on the outside and advocating for that, it made me feel like such a hypocrite that I was telling everyone else to be this way, but in secret, I was doing the same thing and going against what I was saying, which made the feelings of guilt and shame double. It was really hard to get past that. And so I felt like if I tell someone this, they're going to know I'm a total fake, that I'm not who I say I am, and I'm gross.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm dying to hear, Amanda, your story and then how you guys came together.
Yeah. So my story also starts in 8th grade. I got my first boyfriend in 8th grade. It was like a middle school, it probably lasted like 3 weeks kind of relationship.
Yeah, it's a long time for 8th grade. That's
I know,
good,
right? I know.
Yeah.
So I was terrified to like hold his hand or be near him in any capacity. And it got me thinking that I would have to kiss a boy one day. And that just was so, I couldn't comprehend that. And it was really nerve-wracking for me. Even just thinking, oh, my future husband, like I'll have to kiss a man one day. So I started watching romance kissing scenes on YouTube, like The Notebook and that kind of thing. And pretty innocently, just trying to like figure out, what does it mean to kiss somebody one day? And because of the content that I was searching for, a YouTube video popped up in the recommended YouTube video section. And I clicked on it because I thought it might just be what I had been watching. And it ended up being two girls kissing, and they were topless. And same as Katie mentioned, like it was just immediately this flood of so many different emotions. Like I was excited about it and I didn't really know why. I was confused at what I was watching. I was nervous that my mom was going to watch in and see it on my screen, and just so many things at once. But I immediately felt drawn to look up that type of content. So, but the next day I just started looking up kissing videos. I started looking up just different content that was what I could find on YouTube, but very quickly became desensitized to that kind of content. And I don't even remember where I had heard the word porn. I knew that it had something to do with what I was watching and something to do with sex, maybe would give me the feelings that I got from these videos. So I decided to just Google it. And I remember clicking on the first link, and when all of the videos popped up, I said out loud, "This is awesome." And it was just so, I think for about a year, I watched porn every day, multiple times a day, and really didn't feel any remorse. I just felt those exciting feelings, the curiosity, very quickly became desensitized to the content that I started watching. And that went on for like a year. I didn't tell anyone. Again, didn't really feel like I needed to. I didn't feel like it was, I kind of just ignored my convictions about it because I was in the church and I did believe in Jesus, and I just kind of didn't touch that subject. But after about a year, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I started feeling all of the shame about it, the shame that I hadn't really felt for about a year watching it. It all just came flooding in. And now every time I would watch porn, I would immediately just feel so broken and so gross and so shameful. And I knew I had to do something about it. So I told my mom, same as Katie, I told her that I clicked on a viral video and it popped up a bunch of porn websites. I don't know if she saw through that or if she just believed it, but she did something to my computer. She like put restrictions on it, something, I don't know. I don't know what she did, but I was too nervous to test it and start Googling porn again. So I stayed away from it for a little while until I got an iPod Touch. And that was internet access that I could take, into my room or into the bathroom, and I started picking up the habit again. And it went all through high school, into college. I felt so much shame. I was 100% convinced, 110% convinced that I was the only girl in the whole world to watch porn. I would even start thinking, well, I don't know, maybe there's somebody in Australia, like maybe there's somebody in China who watches it. Like the world's pretty big. There's got to be at least one other girl out there who watches it. But I would always convince myself, I kind of stopped thinking logically, like the common sense of, if this is so easy for me to find, clearly there's got to be another girl who has found it too. That common sense just was not there. And the only time I ever got close to telling somebody about it in high school was Katie. We became friends in 9th grade. And I think junior year of college, I wrote her a letter just explaining everything, ended it with, "It's okay if you don't want to be my friend anymore. I know I'm really gross and, I know you probably look at me differently." And I ended up ripping it up and throwing it into a river, the river behind my house, because I was so afraid that someone was going to find it in the trash can or, lying around like my mom would find it. And I after I threw it in the river, I told God that I would tell nobody, that this would be between me and him. Not even my future husband would know. Literally no one is going to know about this except us. Like, we'll get through it together. And my freshman year of college, after a worship night, we had a big campus-wide worship night. I just felt kind of a sense of peace about telling Katie again. Well, not again, telling Katie for the first time.
You almost told her. It was close.
I almost told her. I got close. Yeah.
Close.
So I just felt a sense of peace about it. So after this worship night, I texted her. It was a very long text message explaining pretty much everything that I just told you. And I texted it to her. And I remember very vividly, I was in line for Jamba Juice and I got 2 text messages, and I read one of them first, and it said, "I can't believe this." I think it's what it said. And I was like, that's it. Our friendship is done. Like, she hates me. She cannot believe that I am this disgusting. And then I read her other text message, and it said, "I'm literally crying right now because I'm in the exact same situation." And I almost started crying in Jamba Juice. Like, it was the most relieving thing that has ever happened, because like I said, I was convinced, like without a doubt in my mind, I was the only girl to struggle with porn. And here's my best friend since 9th grade,
Wow.
having struggled with it for the exact same time, like the whole time we knew each other. So
Katie, what were you feeling when you got that text message? And can you still picture where you were when you got that text message? What was that moment like for you? What did you feel reading that?
I was actually on my way to a Walk the Moon concert, and I was in a car with people I didn't know because I was carpooling. So I knew like one person, but I was with a bunch of strangers, and I couldn't do anything. Like, I couldn't call Amanda. I couldn't just start crying right there in the car. And then I had the whole night of the concert to go through as well. So when I got that text, I literally had goosebumps, like, because 2 days before I had just told a friend for the first time. And so going through all of those emotions, telling that friend, and then all of a sudden my best friend has been going through the same thing this entire time. Like, what in the world? Like, I almost couldn't even believe it. Like, it was just unreal. And so we weren't actually able to talk to each other about it until I think a couple of days later, because I was at the concert. But during the whole night at the concert, I just kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking, Amanda was like the whole time, like, for real? Like, how did I not know? Like, we had sleepovers. We spent like almost every weekend together. We went to prom. We did everything in high school together and talked about everything under the sun. And not once did that come up. So it was just unbelievable.
Wow.
God is so cool. Like, what?
Yeah,
How do you not believe in God after hearing that story? Like, I think it's so amazing. He orchestrated it all, and he's such a sweet father to say, "Hey, I'm going to give you not only like a stranger, but one of your friends to come alongside and walk this journey with you." And I just feel like the enemy just wanted to divide and be isolated. And now look at what you guys are doing. I mean, talk to us about where, you want to even go more?
I want to hear a little more.
Okay,
Is that
go.
okay?
Yeah, go.
I want to jump ahead before you.
Go.
Okay, so I just want to keep going. I feel like your story is so powerful. And I think your story, I love podcasts because we can get to know you more, and the people that are on your Instagram, on our Instagram, and that we're kind of can get to know your story even more than just what you're doing. They can hear the heart behind it. So Amanda, you open up. Katie says, "I get you."
Me too.
All of a sudden, you guys aren't alone. You're not isolated in the struggle, and you have this deep bond of this friendship you've had for a long time, 9th grade. What then? I mean, what do you start doing besides just the blocks and things like that? How do you start working on those heart issues? Because we know it's a heart change, right? That you have to go through. I mean, I personally know that in order to not use pornography for all the reasons that we do. What did that journey look like for you guys individually to understand that and start healing that?
Yeah. So we kind of laugh about it now because Katie and I didn't know what we were doing, and we were so young. And like we said, this was the first time we even realized another girl struggled with this.
Yeah.
So we kind of laugh about it because the things we did to kind of heal from this, to recover, looking back now, they were so based in fear that they didn't work. So we would tell each other, okay, I'm going to have to pay you $1 if I watch porn today.
Kind of like the swear jar kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah. Or, oh, you're going to have to tell your dad if you watch porn, or just very juvenile, kind of very fear-based things. And now we, at the time we're like, why isn't this working? But looking back, we're like, clearly that was not what God wanted for us. He doesn't want us to shame ourselves even more out of, watching porn. He wanted us to truly pursue healing. So we did that for a little while. We did try to encourage each other in like texting Bible verses every day, just talking about it more. That alone was really helpful. But a lot of the tactics we were doing were not helpful. So we decided sophomore year, at least I decided that I needed somebody, because we went to 2 different colleges. I decided that I needed somebody physically with me to talk to about this with, because it was so easy to just, I'd be like, okay, Katie, I'm going to call you when I'm tempted. It's just so easy to just not do that and say that I wasn't tempted, or to not pay her $1 when I watched porn, because we were long distance. We were still very much in our addictions. And so I ended up opening, the second person I told was my Bible study leader sophomore year. And she stands out to me because she was one of the very few people that I told who didn't also struggle with porn. And that's crazy to me that stands out, because everyone else I've told has also dealt with porn in some way. Wow. But she met me with so much grace and so much love, and helped me find resources, which for women were very scarce. They're on the rise, which is great, but back then they were very scarce. So she found me Dirty Girls Come Clean by Crystal Raynaud. And that was the first time I actually sat down and kind of processed through it. She has some awesome questions in there that kind of guide you through that. And that was the first time I read other people's testimonies, not just hearing Katie's. And it just continued my healing, like helped me actually sit down and be able to process that for the first time.
Wow. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. What about for you, Katie?
For me, I was really struggling with, I don't know, let me back up. I started
rewind. That was the rewind sound.
I started praying for God to give me outs. That's what I called them. And this is where I saw the most transformation. So an out would look like you're looking for porn on your phone and your mom calls you, or your Wi-Fi goes out, or your phone dies, or something happens while you are being tempted, and you choose to take that out, and you choose, I'm taking the time out. I'm going to focus on this. And that honestly really helped me, because there were times where I have like inner monologue in my head going on, like, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be looking it up, oh, but I want to, and like arguing with myself. And then I would get a text. I'd be like, oh, okay, thanks God, thanks for that out. And I really, really started paying attention to those. And Amanda sent me the Dirty Girls Gone Clean book, but I was so afraid to read it around people because of the cover. And I didn't want people to know that I was a dirty girl. So I would read it by myself. And I honestly don't really remember much of it, because I was so afraid of people finding out I was reading it. So I was kind of like reading it really fast, hidden in my dorm room. And so other than that, I was more focused on prayer, finding the outs. And I had my boyfriend, now husband, who was an amazing encourager, and we would meet pretty regularly just to pray with each other and talk about things.
You know, as you were sharing that verse comes to mind. That is 1 Corinthians 10. I'm sure you guys know it really well. It's like, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. Mankind means womankind. It does not mean man. And God is faithful. He will never let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, I think it says he will also provide the way outs. That's I just like using your word there, outs. He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. I mean, that's like, yesterday a guy texted me. It was like, hey man, I'm struggling tonight. And I just was like texting back like, hey man, like, what's the out that God's providing? Because if we ask him, he does it every time. Not sometimes, not most of the time, not every once in a while he'll make it clear, but it takes what you said, Katie, and that's that pause to go, God, what's the way out here? And then we know that the rest of the verses are true, that if we resist the devil, he flees from us. And so we detoxify the brain. We start actually allowing ourselves to not be dependent on these chemicals that are released in our brain, and then starts the restoration process, which is so exciting. Wow, you guys. Okay, so as you have started this whole ministry, before you get into what it all is, what are you seeing? What are women saying? This has been an issue for you. 8th grade is like what is it like? Is that 12? Is that 13? Something around there?
Yeah, 13, 14, something like that.
2009, 2010.
So what are you guys seeing in these women that are reaching out? Are you able to share your story in a way that these women are like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one? Like, what kind of DMs are you getting right now from these gals?
We get so many DMs, probably every day, would you say, Amanda? Of women being like, I just stumbled across your account and oh my gosh, I had no idea that other women struggle with this. And we screenshot like every DM. We keep it in a photo album because we like to look back at the encouragement, because we do get some nasty DMs. But the encouragement we get from just women finding us and not feeling alone anymore and feeling validated. And we really push the importance of community on our page and the power of community, and that we are confidential. We're not sharing your stories with anyone. Like, you can talk to us, and women are really excited about that when they see that we're welcoming them and we want to know their stories and we're a safe space for them to do so.
That's by far the coolest part of this ministry, is receiving those DMs. Like when we get a new message request, I'm like, ooh, it's either going to be really creepy or really exciting. And it's just awesome when an exciting one comes through. Like we have women share their victories with us. Not just their stories, not just like, hey, I didn't know that other girls struggled with this. Like, I'm feeling really ashamed about it. Because those ones are really heartbreaking, because we know exactly what they're going through and what they're feeling, and just grieving them in that. But also the exciting victories of like, hey, because of your account and like your emphasis on community and confession, I told a friend yesterday and she said me too. Or I opened up to my small group and I had several girls come to me afterwards and say, like, I also struggle with this. Wow. And so just to see God like moving it in so many more ways than just on this Instagram community, like pushing it out into small groups and into friendships, is just so cool.
So amazing. I love that we've been connected because of Instagram, and social media is just such a beautiful gift when it's used in the right way, in the right context. So share with us, what is Victory Collective? What do you guys offer women, and how can they get plugged in to what you guys are doing?
So I guess backing up a little bit, Katie and I have always bonded over the verse in Esther that says, for such a time as this, you were created for such a time as this. I'm probably butchering the actual verse, but we've always bonded over that because we felt like God put each other in our lives for a reason, for this specific reason. So even in our early years of our own personal recoveries, we were constantly talking about, well, what if we did something for other girls? Like, because clearly we're not alone. There are so many other girls who are struggling with this in isolation. How do we reach those girls? So for years, we bounced around ideas like, what if we wrote a book? What if we talked to small groups? What if we had a whole big conference? Like different ideas. And eventually we got to a place in our own recoveries where we felt like we're healed enough in our own hearts, like in our own journeys, to be able to pour into like these girls and kind of go public with it. And so we just made the decision to do Instagram because it was like reels were blowing up and it was making, it was a good place for people to have ministries and businesses kind of in this time. And so we decided to go that route with it. And it's been pretty good.
So cool.
It started out with just an idea of how can we just let other people know our story.
Yeah.
And Amanda started writing some blog posts. I started making reels, and all of a sudden we had this huge community of women that were like, yeah, us too. Like, so it's just crazy how fast everything happened too.
I love that.
Yeah. So on the Victory Collective, like we said, we just kind of want to create a community, like a safe space for women to be able to come and learn from our stories. A big part of what we do is just spreading awareness of like, this is not just a man's problem. Like the church needs to be talking about this. Parents need to be talking to their daughters. And we're walking testimonies to that and sharing our story and having people kind of learn from that. But then also, like we said, thankfully resources are kind of on the rise, which is exciting. And we wanted to be able to create a space where people can come to find those resources because we're not experts. There are actual professionals and counselors and, you know, who study this in depth, authors, speakers, and we want to be able to share those with people as well. And so just creating that kind of resource hub for people to go and be like, I want to learn more about accountability. Like what softwares or what, you know, techniques do you have for that? They can learn from the books that we share, podcasts, other ministries, that kind of thing.
That is so cool.
Love that.
You guys, I'm so excited for what you're doing. I'm so pumped for people to just get plugged in, and I love what you're doing. I love the safe space you're creating. We talk so much about how safety is needed and safe people, and you are creating a community of women that are like, I get these gals, I get you, you know, and so and when you can understand somebody on that real level, you feel so safe. And so I just want to say, way to go. It takes courage to do what you're doing. Everybody on Instagram gets haters, right? Haters going to hate. This is what they do. And troll's going to troll, right? And so it's like, what are you going to do? But you are willing. And I believe it's really courageous. We know that those DMs that are filled with ugly things can definitely affect us if we let them. And I just feel like you guys aren't letting it get to you, and you're still plowing forward and you're still moving forward. And we're all on enemy territory. I mean, that's what's happening, right? We are encroaching upon enemy territory every day. And you are helping the enemy lose those grounds in people's hearts, because that's what he does. He makes us believe that we're alone, that we're trash, that we're dirty, that we are unfixable, that there's shame. And everything you guys are producing is telling people, hey, what you do is not your identity. It's not who you are. It's just a struggle. It's just a struggle. And we all have struggles. We all have stuff that we're working through, whether it's pornography, masturbation, or whether it's alcoholism, whether it's workaholism, whether it's food stuff that we're all trying to work through, or body image. I mean, it's all the same. And I'm just so grateful that you guys are a voice in this space. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I hope everyone goes. We're going to put obviously your link in the show notes. You can check these guys out, the Victory Collective on Instagram. Is there any place else you'd like to send them besides your Instagram page?
We have oh, sorry. You go.
We have a website. It's thevictorycollective.net. That's where you can find all of the resources that we've gathered. Amanda did an amazing job putting this website together. There are blog posts, books based on age or topic. Literally anything you want to find is on our website.
So awesome.
It's a beautiful website. I've looked at
Thanks.
great job. I just want to echo, what Clinton was saying, but I'm just so grateful for you guys, just being that voice and just allowing others to have a voice because you are sharing your voice. And I'm just so grateful because I just think that we really need you guys, and because the rise is big. We have people commenting on our stuff all the time, like, hey, women struggle too, and we just share from our story, right? But we need more people to rise up and share and just kind of normalize the conversation too, because I think that a lot of women struggle with sexual brokenness and sexual impurity, and we've justified, I think, the women's side a lot through novels like 50 Shades of Grey. And, there's so many things that our society has kind of made it okay in justifying the women's side. But in reality, I think there's so many women who can relate and say, I know, even like you reminded me, Amanda, when you were sharing your story about, being so fearful of, I'm going to have to kiss this boy, and I remember me and my cousin talking about that and being like, you should make out with your shower, and it's just like, what? Like, this is for so little, but it's just this curiosity mindset where you're just, and there's fear and you just don't know. And it's just like, well, if I don't know, then how am I going to do it? And just one little Google search. And I just know so many women are going to be able to relate to that. And really grateful that you guys are sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks.
I love what you said about normalizing the conversation, because I meant to mention this earlier, but Amanda and I couldn't even say the word pornography when we were first talking to each other. We would call it the thing. And so we'd be like, whoa, I did the thing again. Or have you talked to this person about the thing? And so one of our biggest things that we have been pushing lately is saying pornography out loud, saying the uncomfortable words, taking that power back. Because when you're saying the thing, or I slipped up, or you're hiding behind it still. And Amanda wrote a really good post about taking back that power and claiming that and speaking it out loud, even if it makes you uncomfortable.
So good, you guys.
I love that.
So good.
Thank
so
you guys
great.
so much.
You guys, thank you for being with us. Thank you for just the hope that you shared. What a hopeful podcast this was. This is just going to be so hopeful to so many people. So appreciate you guys. And go check out the Victory Collective for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.